Do you
Hello
guys?
and hello and welcome to the Science Fiction and Fantasy Marketing Podcast, the show where we help you establish your author brand, increase the size of your audience, and sell more books. I'm Lindsay Baroker, and I'm here with my two co-hosts.
I'm Jeffrey Poole.
And I'm Joe Lalo.
And we've got a guest for you this week, sci-fi romance author Amanda Milo. I got it right, I think. And we're going to be talking about her. She just got started in last year. She's got 3 novels out that have been doing awesome. They're at 99 cents. So we're going to be talking about when that makes sense and how it can help, and being in Kindle Unlimited, and kind of bucking the trends with cover art, which we'll talk about a little bit too. Amanda, I guess I'll briefly read your bio here. It's pretty short. It says you're a diehard lover of romance, that you've written I should just let you introduce yourself. Sweet, sexy plot ideas, snappy dialogue notes, and crammed entire chapters on everything from notebook paper to library book receipts. Her first book, Stolen by an Alien, stayed at the top of the sci-fi romance chart for months and months, and she now has 3 books out in the series. Hi, Amanda. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
All right. I try not to mangle anything too badly, but
You did a great job. That's fine.
oh, good. The listeners kind of expect it now, so it's just, Lindsay can't pronounce names or people's book titles, but why don't you tell us about yourself and how you got into writing and publishing?
Okay. Well, I got into writing, I guess, just like everybody else, where I had stories I wanted to write down. I tried publishing a couple of years ago, and I went with the traditional publishing route and had no luck. They said there wasn't a market for it. So I kept writing stories for myself. Saw Ruby Dixon, we mentioned her. She was a big motivator, I guess, for me. But there was a couple of them. I've watched a number of authors over the years, and I decided I was going to give it a shot. I know it's not my genre, but Kay Webster and like Lauren Dorner is in the sci-fi category, I suppose now. But after seeing them do self-publishing, I thought I'm going to give this a shot, and that's why I started. So if the traditional publishing way wasn't going to work for me, I was like, oh, I'll try indie.
Yeah, I'm a fan of the genre myself, and Linnea Sinclair is about the only author I can think of that went the trad publishing route like 10 years ago and actually had a number of books out. Now and then you can find 1 or 2 kind of here and there.
Yeah. There was Emma Holly and Angela Knight that kind of went the same way, but yeah, you're right. There just wasn't many people, especially not with aliens. That's just not something anyone touches. So that was something.
Which is funny because it's a super popular trope in the top 100. If you look through there, those aliens are popular and hot.
Yeah, they are. It's fun, when you have the aliens, there's no you can do anything with them. I guess that's the beauty of it, is you can do anything you want, and there's no boundaries, no rules. So that's nice.
Yeah, you would think that the publishers would notice this too, because all of us girls, as kids, us geek girls, we had a crush on Spock. So it started the trend early on that aliens were,
Yeah, exactly. So all those TV shows, The V and everything. When Firefly got big, you'd think there would have been a surge, but there really wasn't. So it's kind of odd that traditional publishing hasn't picked it up.
Well, it's good for us indies. As you've seen yourself, you got a great start. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your books? And were these your first books, or have you published under any other names?
I've not published under any other names. These were, I'm not sure why. I don't even know why I went to try with this one. I've done paranormal. I've done dark romance. Whatever I was reading at the time that inspired me, then I would write a book and have a great time. I'm not sure why I decided to publish the first Alien one, but now the fans won't let me stop. They're like, we want the next one, which is great. I love that. They are open to reading other ones. So when I do get the paranormal ready to go, they'll read it, but they still want the rest of the Alien series because it is connected.
So it's good when fans are eager for more in the same series, especially if you're, eager to write more in the same series. So, go ahead.
No, that was all.
All right, so I'll admit I'm fairly ignorant regarding the nuances of romance. I've heard people describe different levels of romance, from sweet romance, where the hanky-panky happens like off-page, to erotica, where the entire story is an attractive wrapper for the hanky-panky.
Yeah.
What level of romance do your readers look for? We'll start with that.
Okay, good question. I think most of them do. They like what you call, I guess, steamy. It's not quite erotica in that there is more plot than sex, but they want that emotional connection. They want sensuality. So I guess steamy is probably a good safe word for it.
All right. And do you find like you have tons of reviews on your stuff? Do you find that you tend to get critiqued on, like, do people come looking for more of something and less of something else? Like, how aware are you of you or people who feel like you crossed a line or didn't get close enough to a line?
I get a lot. They, I guess, with the alien romance, the heroes are all very alien, and it's a niche market to have entirely alien. They are humanoid in that they are bipedal, but that's about it. They are, I guess, the main heroes so far are mostly dragon with horn. They've got a whole bunch of features that are non-human. Um, and I get a lot of reviews where that is not okay with people, and then you get people that love it. So it's kind of which market do you want to please? So then you just kind of have to write for yourself, or I guess you could write for them, but this is what I wanted to write. So
All right. So sci-fi authors would often say that some of the most difficult elements in their books is coming up with levels of science that's believable to the readers. Are there any difficult aspects of writing romance that, let's say, new authors would find surprising?
what a good question. Is profanity allowed when we're doing this?
Oh, I would say keep it PG-13.
Okay, good to know. Anatomy is probably a surprising. The readers, they love different. They want to be surprised. They want to be, I think, a little horrified. I think that's what I enjoy, reading it and being like, that was different. And that comes up a lot, that they enjoy just something that you don't get anywhere else. You want to be able to read it and wake up when you're reading it. You know, you're reading it and you're going, oh, what did that just say? So you really enjoy, I guess you can really be creative with that, and they appreciate the creativity.
It makes me wonder that if you're describing, let's just say, certain aspects of someone's anatomy, do you have to, I mean, do you ever struggle to find, let's say, different words that mean the same thing? I mean, do you go like to thesaurus.com or something and say, I want to say this, but I don't want to say that word, and see what else they suggest?
Right. Totally. I totally have tried that. Yep. And I'm afraid, what do you do when you get beyond in a series? So far I just changed the what would you call it? The parts. I just changed the parts, and then you can change the word for it. It's been fun.
I'm sorry, I was showing off my dog for anybody who's, where you going, buddy? Where you going? You're on TV. I've got 4 tonight because I'm house sitting for my parents this week, so it's a little crazy. So apologies if any wrestling sounds happen to be in the background. But Amanda, as we were kind of talking about, the abduction by aliens is a pretty popular trope in the sci-fi romance category. And I should mention that your first book was like, I think did you release it in April? Am I remembering that right?
April. Yep.
And I was kind of scoping out the category in June because I write also under Ruby Lyons Drake, and I was like seeing what's going on, what's going on, and your book was there, and I'm like, wow, she released this 2 months ago, and it's still like 200 overall in the entire Amazon store, and it really just seemed to stick forever and ever, and your sequels are doing well too. Was that a surprise to you? Did you think that was going to be popular because you picked the aliens, or how was it? Was it planned or was it accidental?
Totally accidental. I can't take any credit for what happened there. I have no idea. I don't know. That was just one of those miracle things that it was just like, okay, that was cool. I didn't expect anyone to read it, because again, when I did research for writing years ago, they say, you can't expect anyone to read it. You can't expect, don't expect a chart topper. So I went in with absolutely no expectations whatsoever. And so when I started getting emails, I was like, wow, I'm not sure how you found my book, and I wasn't sure why I thought it was great that they were emailing me, but I thought that was kind of a fluke. And then it just kept happening. And when, like you said, the chart, I was like, maybe Amazon's reporting isn't quite right. I just thought there was no way. So that was cool, but no, not planned at all.
All right. Well, that's excellent when that happens. And it's interesting too, because I think you've done a couple covers since then, or at least a different one. But your first one wasn't like the typical man chest that you expect. No, it was.
Yeah. No, that was because I didn't want to go in with a budget. I didn't want to throw anything towards this project that I knew was just for me, I thought anyway. So I just threw one up there, and they hated it. But the good news was it sold so well, I was able to afford to have someone make a new cover. That is something, though, being alien romance, it's kind of it's not even redheaded stepchild, that it's just like a weird, if you, I tried going to artists and I was like, hey, can I commission you for, and once they hear alien, they're like, no, I'm not interested. No, I don't do alien. You know, they'll do anything but not alien. So I had a really hard time finding an artist that would work with me. So, and because these are not human, you can't just take a stock image. I don't have the skills anyway to take a stock image and put horns and scales and spikes on it. I wish I did. I'm trying to learn Photoshop, but I think you have to have an ability in order to learn. So it's not going so well.
It's interesting because you very, very rarely see like an actual illustrated cover for a romance novel.
Mhm.
And this is a situation where,
Mhm.
you know, if you work with illustrators, heck, illustrators love the chance to tackle an alien. So it's a rare situation where it would probably work well, but it wouldn't look like a romance novel anymore, which is a tricky like catch-22.
And I don't know how to say her name, but Tiffany Roberts and what's Grace Draven, they have an illustrator that she does some, it's not quite alien, but different creatures as a hero, that she does that, and it's beautiful. So she does illustration for the romance covers, and like you said, it's different, but I guess being different is also a good thing. It just really sticks out. But to find someone, I couldn't even get an illustrator that they just didn't want to touch it if it had alien romance in it. So it was quite a surprise, I guess. That was something I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, it's tricky. All right, so strong female characters are like sort of finally getting their day in literature and whatnot. But a lot of the most popular romance tropes are sort of at odds with a strong independent protagonist, like abducted by and won by and like rescued by. So like, how do you reconcile having a strong and independent protagonist with sort of the things that romance often requires?
That's a fun question. With that, I guess if you were dropped in that situation, what would you do? You realize you have no options, and so you just have to be strong and rolling with it. You can't curl up into a ball and cry. I mean, you could, but you can't stay there forever. So the characters have to deal with it. The women have to realize, okay, this is my reality now. I can't get back home. Even if they stole the ship or, did this, they don't know how to get back to Earth. And then once they have the opportunity, because you've got to give that opportunity, then the heroine she's got to love the hero enough to stay, but she's got to realize too that she wouldn't be happy back on Earth without him. So then they make that choice instead of everything being forced on them or them again rolling up into the corner. They got to be proactive about that.
Alrighty, I have an anonymous viewer question for you that they're asking: are parts exposure required for the genre readers to be happy?
Parts exposure? We're talking the genitalia again, aren't we? Just me.
I assume so, yes, because she put parts in quotes there.
Okay. No, I suppose not. I've certainly read enough where it's fine. Although I've had a number of really neat discussions with readers where that is something. If it's a humanoid hero, which they will be okay with, but they want something different. They want his ears to be pointy, or they want his color to be different. They really do enjoy, and they specifically state that they enjoy having different extras down below. They want a different experience, and the extras have to add something to the connection.
Alrighty. Okay. So my question: we've heard from other romance authors that to be successful, a romance novel should expect to hit all the popular tropes. Now, do you follow that logic? I mean, what would you say are the standard tropes that most romance authors should strive to hit?
In this genre?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I guess being abducted by an alien, you want your hero to be. I guess I've seen it both ways. You can have a sweet hero, you can have an aggressive hero. If he's aggressive and he's, maybe like a warlord or whatever, he's got to be her monster. He can be mean, he can be, scary, he can kill people, but he's got to be nice to her. He's got to fall in love with her. So you've got to stay with that trope that no matter what, he's got to be the beast to her beauty. The other tropes, let's see, let me think. If she's abducted, boy, I got nothing. Okay. I've read a ton of these. Let me think. Help me out. My brain's fried. I got nothing. All right. Tropes wise, yeah, you can really do anything with this category.
Sky's the limit, huh?
Yeah, really, truly.
Do they usually end up going back to Earth, or do they find happiness off on his planet where he's the prince or warlord or whatever?
Yeah, most of the time, you're right. Most of the time, they stay with him on his planet. I can't currently think of one where they stay that they go back on Earth and he lives on Earth. I'm sure it's been done, but I can't think of one.
I could see that being really appealing to, the fantasy, like my life sucks right now, or I just need an escape. So, well, wouldn't it be great if you could be a princess on a
On a
alien planet? Yeah.
And now that you say that, that I guess is a trope that, yeah, they've got, it's the waitress, it's the, I mean, she's working at a gas station, she's working at whatever, and like you said, the bills, and they do that where you've got to make it so her reality is not so good that she doesn't want to leave. So you want to make it believable as to why she would choose to stay there. There's got to be some reason that she's like, okay, my family's dead. Most of the time, that's a trope too, is that she's got no reason to stay. So you don't want to make too many connections on Earth. I left a family back on Earth, and I heard about that until she got her book. So you got to be careful how you play that.
Right. It's hard to text home from Uranus. So I am curious because I know Amazon does some, I guess, banning of like books if they're a little, incest or like bestiality is kind of what I was thinking of when you were talking about extra parts. Is there any I don't know. Is there any concern about that in sci-fi romance, or is it because it's an alien, it's okay, and maybe that's why people have drifted over to reading that because the other stuff's forbidden?
Yeah. I'm not sure. How I've not been smacked with anything yet, but I've had people. They mention the bestiality because you get the readers that they love having a non-human hero. But some of them, I guess, the ones that don't like it are the ones that they'll say they it's too close to bestiality for them. Um, so I am a little concerned about walking that line, but at the same time, they're not animals. They are human in thinking and everything. Um, you're right. I mean, as long as they're not human, so far Amazon lets it go. I'm not sure, what else would be too close. I was watching a podcast where they talked about the stepbrother, alien trope. I'm not sure. We'll have to see how it goes. It's new enough, I guess, that I haven't heard about them pulling anything down yet, which is nice.
Cool. Well, it seems like it would intelligent, sentient beings that is, we're not talking about sheep or anything like that.
You're an alien life form. And I guess you get bored. I get bored reading where the alien looks human. They go to a totally alien planet and they're completely human. And you're like, really? Really? Come on now.
Yeah, that's kind of why I've avoided aliens so far with my other stuff, is just that I have a problem with the logic of species being compatible for breeding, especially. But it's, sometimes who cares? It's fantasy more than sci-fi, really.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I guess that's it is that, yeah, you can have a lot of fun with this, and that, yeah, they can be anything. That's true that yeah, the heroes do not have to match up in any way, and it can work out.
All right, cool. Well, the guys are probably blushing. I'm blushing. So let's move on to the marketing side of stuff a little bit. It sounds that with your first book, it sounds a little bit accidental, but was there anything you did early on to get the ball rolling?
No, I didn't do any promotion. I didn't do anything. I just threw it up there. I think with Kindle Unlimited that I think they helped because, then you get that new book, whatever they put up there. And because it's the alien romance, there's a specific set of readers that they're just awesome. The readers grabbed the book and they started putting it up on, there was an Amazon forum at the time. I don't know if the Amazon forum's still there, but it is dedicated to hundreds and hundreds of alien heroes. There is Facebook groups. It's one talked on Facebook. I'm not sure where else they talked about it, but Goodreads. Kristen Ashley fans. I'm not sure what the correlation is between Kristen Ashley and alien romance, but I love it. It's wonderful. They pimped the book for me, and I did nothing. That was just awesome.
Yeah, it's actually a good lesson for people too, because we talk about like the right to market, and you want to write something there's a huge fan base for, and it's kind of proven itself, but there's definitely something to be said for writing in a small niche that's really hungry because they can't find exactly what it is that you're writing.
Yeah, exactly. So totally true.
And do you think, it sounds like people are out there actively looking for this stuff. Do you think the fact that you launched at 99 cents and in Kindle Unlimited, it sounds like that really helped things out? I mean, it made it easy for people to give you a try.
That I think, yeah, you're right. That was probably a lot to do with it, and that is why I jumped in at that 99 cents because I thought, like you said, I mean, coming from nowhere, no other releases. When I'm as a reader, and I love to read, I'm scared to grab, a book at 3.99 or 4.99 if I don't know the author. If I'm reading that blurb or reading that when you download the sample and you're just like, I'm not sure. So I wanted people to have that access to it and decide, whether they were going to go with it or not. Kindle Unlimited helps in that anyone who has that can jump in with Kindle Unlimited, but those that don't, 99 cents, it's not too bad to test it out.
Did you do anything with your blurb specifically to kind of let, here's this niche audience and they're out there, but is there anything that you did to like throw out some certain phrases or words that would kind of let them know, hey, this is your kind of book?
Yeah, I did. I went with everything that I would want to read, and that's been an interesting thing too, in that readers that enjoy my story, we generally have the same tastes, which has never happened in my life. I've been in offices and tried to make book clubs, and it's like nobody reads what I read. In this case, like you said, you write to those things. The blurb, I'm trying to think what was the blurb. It'll say things like, "Doctor, she's put an auction pen." That is another trope. There you go. She's put in an auction pen, and he mistakes her for an alien princess of their species. That I don't know that that's so much a trope, but then what's going on, and then she's like, what does she do, and she's not able to get home, and so those things, like you said, that lets them know. And I think from that first cover you could tell that he wasn't human, and now with this new cover, I mean, you can definitely tell he's not human, and that cover I think helps as much as that blurb does.
All right. You were saying how like you didn't have a special launch. You just had an unexpectedly successful first launch, and then once you started to make money, you poured money into, say, getting a new cover. I did the same thing with my stuff. When I had finally started making money, I immediately started dumping it back into the books. First, did you find that the new cover had what sort of an impact did the new cover have?
Well, I stopped getting complaints. That was nice. I also had people, the reviews, they would say, they love the book, they hated that cover. And I kept hearing, and you'll see it on reviews too, where they said they almost didn't get the book because of the cover. And they would wait, they were just like, I waited months or whatever. So that finally slowed down. And then I was getting a lot of people that the first cover, you couldn't really tell whether the book was dark or not. That's another thing that was in the blurb, is that darkness warning. But with this new cover, I asked Naomi Lucas and Cameron, who are the cover artists, I said, can you make it kind of dark? I wanted people to look at it and know that this isn't going to be, a happy or easy romance. This isn't like a super sweet, fluffy, taffy one. And they did. And that stopped people from saying, it was too dark, it was too creepy. They didn't realize there was going to be the attack in there. And so cover art is huge. It really helps a ton. So it lets them know that he's not human, number one, and that number two, it's not going to be a rainbows and unicorns.
Yeah, it's definitely. We'll be talking about cover art a little bit later too. But the other thing is there anything else that you've dumped money into since you started making money? Like, did you do? Was it initially professionally edited, or did you do an edit afterward?
I didn't know it wasn't professionally edited at first. That was terrible too. I did get an editor finally, and so yeah, I poured money into the editing. Covers. Let's see. I've done a lot of gift card giveaways because I love those as a reader. So I do that on Facebook a lot, and my newsletter. That's so far it. But I've been pouring a ton.
Okay, so whenever you release a new title, do you do anything with your older titles? I mean, do you make them free? Do you run ads on them? Or you just focus all your energy on the new one?
Just focus all the energy on the new one. It was interesting with this last book to see that the numbers jumped back up on the book one. I mean, I did expect people to buy it if they saw, something on the third one, but by this time, I'm not sure why the sales jumped so high on the first one, because I was running nothing. So that was just something neat and different. But no, I go on Facebook, and that's been my main place to hang out, and readers are pushing it more than anything.
And I have a viewer question from you,
Sure.
from Monty. He asks, how do you avoid romance becoming, and this is his quote, mom porn, like 50 Shades of Grey?
Boy, how do you avoid that? I've not actually, I'll be honest, I've not read 50 Shades of Grey, so I'm not sure. I don't think I'm there. But honestly, I guess if it did, if that was what it was considered, that's the book that I wrote is the book that I would read. So if that's what it came out to be, I'd be like, well, I don't mind mom porn, I guess. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure how you'd avoid it if that was your concern. Um, when you're writing romance, I guess I'm not sure how Monty means that. If he's meaning he doesn't want it to be, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Like
Too explicit, maybe, or
I mean, you could write it so that it wasn't so um, explicit, I suppose, and then you got a different market.
true.
All right. Well, say what you do is you say, well, I wrote some mom porn and I bought this new Lexus out in my driveway. So I'm cool with mom porn right now if that's what I'm writing.
Exactly.
But I feel like there's always going to be people that look at romance, no matter whether it's sweet romance or erotica, and it's just never like, oh, it's not as much literary merit as some other stuff, and that's just what you have to decide as an author, right? Do you want to win a literary award, or do you want to write something that's really fun for you?
Well, and I guess that's it. Is that you can't change how people perceive it to an extent, and I read what I like to read, and I write because I'm inspired by that, and so if that's the way people want to see it, that's their call. But I'm going to read it and write it anyway.
All right, so my next question for you is, after you saw that you're having this success with book one, did you have a mailing list? I think you still don't have a website. Is that right? Like, what did you do after you started seeing the book one was selling?
The mailing list took, I want to say, like a month to get up. Because MailChimp and we have a really complicated relationship, but I wish I'd gotten it out from the first, because readers were saying, do you have a mailing? And I was like, oh man. So as advice to someone who's starting out, just start one, just get it up there. The website, I sort of have one. I put one up, and I've had readers contact me and say, can you update the website? I'm like, website. Oh yeah. So technically I have one. I haven't looked at it in months. So I need to get back there and do something with it.
Yeah, I was Googling and looking, and I think I found a WordPress site that said like, this is coming soon, or something like that.
Got like here's my blog, which you'll be like, where's the blog post? I'm gonna put more up. I will. That's my next thing.
No, but I think it's great that you've probably prioritized getting the next books out, because you have 3 out now, and it's only been, I don't know, are we at 7, 8 months or so?
Something like that.
Now, let me ask, because actually with romance, how you plot the books can be part of the marketing. It sounds like yours are related. Did you do something in the first one, like introduce characters that would then become the heroes in the second one?
I introduced, like you said, I introduced characters in the cast so that, because it was a pen of humans at this auction, then you get to know some of these other auctionees, and I left it open so that I could write those stories. I have some of them that are written in draft form anyway, and so I thought, well, if this book ever took off, and whether it didn't, I'm gonna put them up there just for me. But now I kind of have to carry through, so it's like, okay, I can do this. So,
did they all get sent off to the same planet, or how do you keep, I guess, the whole cast alive as after your heroine has been auctioned off to the first alien?
They went all over. There is a main planet where most of it's going to happen, but right in the first book, all these different aliens were introduced, and so you find out, like, one is a water alien, one is comes from, he's a cat alien, so he comes from a totally different planet, and so I left it open so that there was no end to it. I could go forever with this as long as I wanted to write it.
Cool.
So,
Do you think that's part of the appeal, is having like, what interesting alien is going to be the romance hero in the next one?
Totally, yeah. And it's neat. Readers, that's what I would be interested in, and readers are the same way, where they are excited for the cat alien. They want to see, they want to see the water alien. And now with the Shape of the Water movie coming out, it's like, that is so cool. There's the dog in there, and the dog is stealing the show, and so, like you said, I mean, there's always something new and something different, and it leaves that all open. That's nice.
Yeah, that sounds fun, because if they all went to the same planet, and you'd have all the same green-skinned aliens or whatever we're doing this month. So it is interesting that you can, especially I would think in this particular niche, that would be a lot of the appeal, is like, what fascinating thing are we going to see next? So they sound kind of like superheroes, with each one's really got these different powers.
Yeah, different qualities, exactly. It's exactly like that.
All right, so I have to ask about the 99-cent thing because you know, a lot of authors will launch a book one at 99 cents, or maybe they'll leave it at 99 cents, but then the other books will be 3.99. So what has made you decide to stay at 99 cents? I mean, I can see why you're selling real well, so you might want to not buck the trend.
Right. I've actually had so many readers, especially lately, suggest that I go up. And so that is something I am going to do. I did warn readers with this last one that everything will be going up. I'm not sure. I think I'll leave the first one as a lead-in at 99 cents, but everything else will be going up to 3.99. The readers are telling me, they're giving me advice saying they would look at a book as higher quality if it is a higher price. That is really interesting advice. I've had people say that they can't afford much, and so they appreciate the 99 cents. But at the same time, when you've got readers telling you over and over, different people, that you should raise it, I'm thinking, okay. And like you said, everyone else, it's a normal, it's normal. I'm not sure. On one hand, I want to leave it for the readers that can't afford much, but on the other hand, it's like, I would love the money.
Right, but one of the interesting things with Kindle Unlimited is that your book can be 99 cents, but if it's 500 pages, you could actually be making like $3 on the page reads. Are you finding that you get like as many people borrowing it as they are buying it, or is it more borrows than sales?
With the first book, it was definitely more borrows than sales. Same with the second book. With this third one, weird, it's more sales than borrows. And I think that's because fans are hoping to help me by buying right away, which is awesome and sweet and wonderful, and I love them. Um, but that was just really interesting and strange to see that flip where it was like, okay, why that one not borrowed? I don't know. But I think that's what it is they're buying instead of, and they're already with me. So that's my assumption anyway.
All right, you mentioned, okay, all your titles are in Kindle Unlimited.
Yep.
Have you ever considered releasing them wide?
Yes, I would love to, for a couple of reasons, but I've been told again and again by readers they use Kindle Unlimited, they appreciate that. That's how they found me, and so I'm scared to hop out of there just because that they really appreciate that aspect, and they've been very vocal about telling me.
All right. Now, one thing I'm curious about is how long are your books?
About 70 to 80,000 words.
Now, is that like, do you work to a quota, or like, does that just happen to be about how long a story tends to be for you?
So far has been about just how long it happens to be.
Now, you feel like you're talking about how people, and we've heard it all over about how higher price implies higher quality in the mind of the reader. Do you foresee, like, if you end up, say, coming up with a title that comes up shorter than the rest or comes out longer than the rest, do you think you'll have a price that reflects that, or are you just going to try to target the one price point now?
I think I'm going to have to do where the price reflects it. I am a little concerned. I've got this next one coming up is a group collaboration, and it so far is going to be a shorter story, and I'm worried about that. As a reader, I know when I would go from when I expect something from an author and then they drop it down, I'm like, hey, now. So I assume people are going to be just like I was, and some are not going to be happy. Some are going to find it is fine. But I think I'd like to roll that adjustment where if this one is 30,000 words, 40,000 words, this one should only be 99 cents, 1.99, whatever.
We talked a little bit about the covers already and that you've tried a couple different ones. Have you thought, or what do you think for other authors that are maybe going to try now that they're all excited by the success that you've seen? They're like, okay, I'm taking my notes, right? I'm going to have my water alien.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
That's what happens. You come on our show and then we out you as we out your little niche. But
awesome.
would you recommend like going the route that you went with the aliens on the cover, or would you ever consider the man chest covers? What do you think for the other authors, or even for you going forward?
Yeah, I think you can go with what you have available. It's like I said, it was so hard to find someone who would even if you're writing alien. It's so hard to find someone who will work. And if there are artists, cover artists listening to this podcast right now, it's a really underrepresented market. So at the point that I was at, I would have taken anything. I just wanted someone to give me a professional cover and work with me. I was given some suggestions on some websites, but it was just, again, it was a human man and I couldn't get any of those additional spikes and things on it. A reader is going to be really upset if they see a human man and you read it and there is nothing human about this guy. So, if they can do the man, as as a reader, this section of the market, Manchester is fine, but make sure it shows some scales. What is her name? Arlie Smith. I could have that wrong, but it's Last Hour of Gan. If you know that book, if anyone wants to look that one up, it's sort of a Manchester cover, but you can tell he's like dragonish scales. Now that is a good representation. It's a great one where you can see he's got horns, that guy's got claws, he's got a tail. I mean, that is not a human. So if you are new, if you are looking to publish, if your hero is not alien, or if he's not human, if he's alien, you've got to be able to show that so they're not shocked. And also if they're looking for it, if they don't want a regular human guy, they're going to go past that cover, and you could have this great book that they'll love, but they don't want a human.
Yeah, I feel like sci-fi and fantasy, all of us, it's like we have the most challenging covers to find. At least in urban fantasy, you can take a human person and get something on Photoshop. But I'm sympathetic because I'm doing dragons right now, and this time I actually wanted dragons on the front covers, like the first series. All you could do is kind of like put an eye, or that's kind of reptilian, and some scales. You could find that on Shutterstock.
Right.
But like with the aliens, the dragons just don't pose in Central Park for pictures. So
unfortunately, yeah, it's really unfortunate. But no, I thought about the same thing if I could just have the eye. But like I said, I have no skills and have been trying to learn, but Photoshop is beyond me at this point. But I would even have taken that. And I think if the cover was odd, obviously you could see my first cover was horrid, and they still read it. So I think if you have an odd cover, I don't know if that helped or hurt, but they still clicked it. So I think if you've got no other options, go for a blank cover if nothing else. That way, they know. But Jex Lane, she's in a bit of a different category. But if you look at her books, they're just so different. Gorgeous. They're absolutely gorgeous, but they're so different. I was looking at them anyway. It's not my category. I've never really read in that one before, and I thought I just love the covers. So you could go totally oddball. I mean, if that's what's available to you, go with it. And as long as it's pretty and it's eye catching.
Yeah, that's one of the things in romance too. Is like if this genre, maybe more so than any, the cover tells the reader what to expect inside. Like the naked man chest, you're probably going to have on the page sex. I don't know with aliens if there's horns and things, if that tells. But one of your aliens is shirtless, so I guess that they're all shirtless. So that tells them. But you do. It's like you got to know the code, because otherwise the reader will be disappointed.
Yeah, that's true. I haven't thought about that before, but yes, I have had a couple of people that stumble on it, and I'm so curious why they stumble on it. When I get the chance to ask them, I'm like, how did you find this? Most of the time it's Amazon recommends it, but like you said, most of them, they're veterans in this, and they know exactly what they're looking for. They know what they want to see, and they'll walk on if they don't think, if they look at that cover and they think, oh, that's not going to have what I want, they'll pass.
And so many, it's interesting because the advice is usually to make your book look like everything else in the top 100 for your list.
Right.
But I think in this case, when you are doing something that's different than a lot of the top 100 stories, maybe that is the time to experiment like you do with a different kind of cover.
I would. There's no harm in trying anyway.
Now, I actually had a big chunk about covers that has been entirely answered now. So 2 new questions. First off, an observation. I've mentioned it on the show before. The untied shoe theory, where if you see a row of things that are similar and one that is different, it draws the eye. And I feel like whereas it's probably a better idea to have a cover in keeping with people's expectations, sometimes the odd one out is the one that gets people to just click through and give your blurb a chance, So I've noticed that sometimes back earlier when my cover was illustrated and not a lot of others were at the time.
So neat.
Yeah, so maybe there's that. Keep that in mind. I wouldn't depend upon it, but it could work in your favor. The other thing is, as you say, you have the issue where finding the inappropriate cover for this particular genre is difficult. And I've heard tell, like in the old days, like the pulp era of the literary business, they would make the covers first and then write a novel to the cover.
Wow.
So could you foresee, for example, coming up with a list of aliens you'd like to work with,
totally.
Finding an illustrator who will do them, and then just getting a stack of covers and then just like choosing from the cover later, oh, I guess I'm going to write about this alien guy today?
I would totally do that. That would be awesome. I've kind of done that. I'm working with Daz. It's a 3D program. And I'm starting now. It's years too late, but I'm starting now where I make the alien first, and then I'm like, okay, then I'll write a story about that guy. And it's sort of helping me with the ones I've got now to visualize them better. But yeah, if that was an option, I would so go with that. But most of the time, the artists are the ones that I've worked with. They've not done alien covers before. It would have really been nice to have some concept art so they would even know what I'm asking. You know, when you're looking at a description, it's hard for them to even see, you know, I mean, that's not something they've done yet. So it's a hard place.
Let me ask you this. When would you think it'd be acceptable for an author to change the covers of their book? A specific amount of time, declining sales, hit a certain number? What would you think?
That would all be really good indicators. Or you could do what I did where you just do it. I needed to change it. You know, like I said, I had the complaints on the first one. The second one, same thing. They hated that cover. And so as soon as I got the other one in there, I jumped. Well, I guess so the second one's a good example. I got a better cover. It was beautiful. It showed the darkness, but then there was another artist cover artist that was willing to try aliens, and I've always loved her work, and so I thought, okay, that was book 2. That cover you see now is what she did. I just switched it out, and I haven't noticed either way whether it did anything, but it was nice for me to be able to have one of her covers. So it didn't impact anything negatively as far as I know.
All right. And my next question is actually a follow-up from the question from earlier from Monty about the mom porn thing. He actually rephrased it. Hopefully
awesome.
he'd explain a little better. He says, how much of a scene should be personal experience versus fantasy? Will the readers pick up on it?
You know, I guess personal experience versus, you know, you want everything to be accurate in, I assume Monty is a man. I'm going to go with that assumption.
Yes.
Let me just sort of jump in with men. I love romance books written by men, but I've talked to a lot of readers lately, and they don't like it because the men don't show the emotion behind it. They show the mechanics. In alien romance, they kind of want more of the mechanics, so that would work. You still got to keep the emotion in there, but you could totally make it up, basically. I mean, you could have a lot of fun. Just I say that this one, I don't have any aliens with tentacles, but I've seen it done, and you could go anywhere with it, and I mean anywhere. They like the different.
Yeah, I mean, I like those covers that you're doing. The guy, clearly it's a guy, but you can see those horns or the tentacles coming out of there. I'm like, that obviously you know what subject matter is going to be in the book in order to produce that. So it's like, huh,
Exactly.
interesting.
Exactly.
Go ahead, Lindsay.
Well, she
So you didn't see my chat note. The dog came in looking for water, and I'm like, I'm in the kitchen today, right by the water dish.
I started stalling a little bit.
All right. So if you guys hear little sounds of the laughing ocean in the background, it's just serene serenity for the show. All right. But my next question for you, Amanda, is that even though you're not doing a lot on the website yet, you look to be really active on Facebook. So how important has that been for you when it comes to marketing?
Huge. That is unfortunately where I've thrown all my concentration. If I was going to give advice, I'd say do your website, you know, work on that. But I get sucked into Facebook. I'm sure I've actually heard other people where they shut off Facebook. That sounds like a great plan. I'd recommend that. But I have fun. I play on there. We do book recommendations. Like I said, I love to read. I haven't been able to read lately. But we talk about books, and in talking about books, it always comes back to mind. Readers are great about being very generous. And so I guess that in itself is sort of a promotion. You know, you're helping other authors, but at the same time, the readers are pushing it. Then that is awesome. I mean, you can't beg for that. So that it is that is my marketing strategy, I suppose. And it's huge to be able to get on there and interact with readers. They have questions, you know, they want to know, and it's exciting for me. You know, I've had these stories stuck in my head for years, and so to have somebody else that wants to know about them, it's like, this is fun. So I spend a lot of time on there. I have a good time. And like I said, we talk about I've learned a lot, you know, when readers say they've read this book and I say, oh, I haven't read that one yet. Why did you like it? What didn't you like about it? And so they're teaching me, even if I don't have the time to read right now. I'm still learning a ton. And I want to talk about narrators. So if I could just throw that out there, if you guys don't have a question, bring me back to that.
All right. Point made for narrators. Mailing list. You have a mailing list, correct? What do you do to pipe people to your mailing list? Do you have any techniques for that?
I put the link on Amazon. I put it out in every, I want to say, what would you call it? Like promotion. Facebook has these rooms where you go in and you promote your book. When I do giveaways and stuff, I give a link there. And I've got it on the Facebook author page. I suppose I should do more with that. That's on my list for stuff I should have done and need to do. But it's really, unfortunately, I'm making the readers do all the work and hunting and finding that. And thank you guys for doing all that for me.
With regards to your mailing list, have you ever considered a mailing list swap with other like-minded authors?
I have, and I am ashamed to say that when I first heard about that, I turned my nose up. I thought, as a reader, that was, because I didn't like it when I would open up a newsletter and my favorite author would say, "Oh, read these guys," and I'd be like, "Okay, great," and I'd click on it, and the book was nothing like that author, and I thought, if they were making the recommendation, maybe I would like the book, but it really wasn't anything, and I wasn't finding a lot of books that I liked. So what I try to do is, if someone offers me a newsletter swap and I know that I love their stories, then yes, I would do that. I haven't done that yet because I'm lazy with my newsletters. But what I did instead was, this last time, I asked for readers to give me their favorite book suggestions, and if I hadn't already given it yet, then I would put it in the newsletter, and that I wasn't swapping it with anybody, so I suppose that doesn't grow anything. But the readers had fun. I had fun.
Yeah, I think just about everyone's moral of the story is when you're starting out, get yourself a mailing list and just start collecting email addresses. Don't do what I did and wait a few years before maybe that is kind of important. Everybody says it is.
Yeah.
But okay, let's see. I don't have any viewer questions at the moment there. Okay, so let me pass you over to Joe here.
Or me.
Or you.
Just like, who, me? But she actually said, Amanda said, she only waited a month to get her mailing list started, and you were all kind of like embarrassed about that. You don't know how long we all waited to get things started.
We're talking years here, people.
All right. My readers would never have stood for that. They're awesome. I've really done everything when the readers tell me to do it. So except the website. I'm trying. I'm going to do that. But they are like, where's your newsletter?
That's so cool that you have these really amazing readers that are so into what you're doing. And I think that's a thing too. You don't always get with the written to market, real popular stuff, because they can just go find other authors and maybe they won't even think of you. They're just going on to the next, like, I like this, and I don't care who wrote it. I just want to read this thing. But it seems like when you're able to find these really hungry fans and maybe they don't have that many out there to pick from, and then you write a good story, it's like they're your fans now, and that's awesome.
They're awesome. Yeah, it's like, this is the book club that I always wanted, and doing book recommendations, I guess that's the biggest thing for us to share. And these readers, they know what other authors should do, what they've done, what they know what they want to see, and again, with the newsletter, they knew that would help them find the books, and so they are more market savvy than most of us. Because that's the other thing with these authors. A lot of us, they've been writing for years, and like you said, they hadn't had newsletters and stuff like that. We kind of got together. They were like, "Hey, I liked your book," and I was like, "Oh, Mylene, I've read your books. That's so cool that you contacted me," and found out that they haven't done the newsletter. And I was like, "Oh, you should do it." Like, I'm giving advice now, and we just kind of became friends. And I found out we're all very introverted, quiet people, and the readers just kind of push us along where they want us to go. So we've been able to kind of band together. Thanks to readers, they kind of bring authors together too. It's a neat community. So I love it.
That's cool, because I've actually been hearing from some authors lately that they feel like the readers are burned out because everybody has a mailing list and always trying to sell stuff. But hey, I love this, that they expect it now from authors. Some readers are like, why don't you have a mailing list? Where's my free giveaway or whatever when I sign up for your list?
Yeah, exactly. So
I did want to ask, I saw
Oh, no,
sorry. Oh, I saw on Facebook you've also got a group called Amanda Milo's Minions that discusses sci-fi romance. Is that something you just started for fun, or is there any marketing strategy to that?
I did do it for marketing strategy. A lot of fun. I didn't know how many people were going to join. When I first put it up there, I wasn't sure what the fan base would be. And so when it was just the first couple of readers, we just started talking about books. What else do you talk about if they already read the book? I mean, you're not going to sit there and talk about your book the whole time. The idea was, the reason what I used to get them in there was I would give them extras and behind the scenes looks, teasers, and they love that. They enjoy doing it. I love to give them, but you get the ball rolling by talking about other ones, especially when you have no backlist. What are you going to talk about? You got to keep it active. So we just have fun. Again, it's that book club. And I think that brings a community to it. I mean, you want readers to be invested and interested. This is how you, if that's what you would want to see, then that's what you should do. And I loved it. I mean, this is what as a reader, this is what I loved. And as a writer, it's like, this is fabulous. So that group has been great.
Okay, I have to ask, do they mind being called your minions?
I didn't come up with that name. They've not complained. I only get like, haha, that's cute. And I'm like, I'm glad you think that. I didn't want to offend anyone. But I had no name. And so I thought, if anyone's got any recommendations, throw them out there. And that was one of them. And that was picked.
All right, cool. Now, let's hear about narrators. You said you wanted to talk about narrators.
Yeah. That is the same problem with the cover artist. Because I love audiobooks. I've listened to audiobooks for years. I've been stalking narrators for years, thinking that if I ever got anything published, I was going to have these narrators do it. And I had a lineup of people. And I contacted my top ones for this story that I wanted, and they were like, "Oh, alien romance, no." And I was like, "What?" They'll do sci-fi, but they didn't want to do alien. And so I thought, "Oh, that's crushing." And so I wanted to the next one. I thought, well, I wanted them for this book, but maybe I'll just have them do for the whole series. That's fine by me. And they didn't want to do it either. And there's one narrator that I just love his voice, and he hasn't contacted me back. And so I thought, there's a chance. But most of them, they shot me down. I did get some great recommendations at this time. You got your favorites. And like I said, I've had this hope for years. So that's just been a challenge I didn't see coming, is that because it's alien romance, you're kind of treated, like you mentioned with the romance, just romance itself just kind of gets this weird look from other genres. But even in romance, when you get into alien, some people don't even want to touch it. And so it's like, wow. I was told by a couple of them that if I went with my paranormal stories, when I do publish those, they'll come back and they'd love to work with me, but not alien. So I was like, okay.
All right. And for my final question, I actually have yet another question from Monty, who asks or says, romance is a very competitive market. Has there been any conflict from readers contradicting your categories or keywords or genres?
Wait, try that again. Readers?
Yeah, I think he's asking.
Contradicting or like taking over?
Yeah, I think he's wondering if by chance has there been any readers that say, hey, you're putting like a 99-cent book in romance. We don't really think you're using the right keywords here. I'm expecting this, but yet I'm seeing that. Probably wanting to know if you've actually had any people arguing about that.
Okay. So far, I haven't had any readers. No, I haven't had anyone complain about that. I've had interesting ones where you'll see on the review where they say, I don't normally read sci-fi romance. And so, I mean, but it's a good thing. They enjoyed the book. And so that's been a positive. I've not had a negative yet. Now I'm kind of scared that you brought it up. It's like, oh no. Thanks,
okay.
Mom.
I think my interpretation of that, and it's hard when people just text their questions, is a lot of times in romance you see people like their category stuffed, so they're trying to, like, if you put your alien stuff in sci-fi aliens, like not the romance section, maybe you'd get some grief from people who are writing a hard sci-fi with alien invasions kind of thing. Do you put your stuff in regular sci-fi, or do you stick to the romance categories?
Stick to romance. So because I know that's where I would look. So if Amazon sticks it anywhere else, then I don't know. I have to go back and look. But no, I try to stick to romance. Mine is not sci-fi enough to make anyone who doesn't, if you didn't like romance, if you weren't able to handle it, you would not like these books.
I think that's wise, because I do see people putting things with the man chest in categories that are, and I do it with some of mine or my pen names, just because mine tend to be very much same as my space opera, just a little more, just there's some sex in it. But I think especially if you're doing more creative things and a lot on the page, that you would, and even with my stuff, I will get complaints. It's a risk to put it in the space opera category.
So, wow. Thankfully I haven't.
Yeah, you're wise. But yeah, I understand why authors get tempted though, because sometimes they see a category that they could actually place in the top 100 with their ranking, whereas maybe their romance category, like paranormal romance, is really competitive, and so.
I'll find that out, I guess, when I move on. But yeah, so far not a complaint yet.
All right. Well, it's good to hear, or not good to hear, but it's good for listeners to know that if they're going to try something like this, because I wouldn't have thought about that, but with the narration, the audiobooks, now as soon as you brought it up, I'm like, oh yeah, I can see why some narrators, not just aliens that were PG, they might be more okay with, but if things get graphic, it can be hard to find an editor too that's comfortable with it.
Well, and I think too that it's this, what would you call it? Tentacle porn is a term that they use, and that is looked upon as like pure erotica and weird. They, that no, it's very popular because readers do like it, but it's a different kind of a book entirely. And I think when people hear that, when they hear alien, they think tentacles and they're scared. They don't want to touch that, the connotation to it. And you can't change their mind. You can't change their perception. So I can understand why they're uncomfortable. I do. But it was just, like I said, something I didn't see coming. And if you're going to write in this genre, it's like, you should know.
Right. And it's true. And there may be good money in the audiobooks. Who knows? I'm always surprised by what people will listen to in the car on the way to soccer practice.
Well, I love the alien audios. There's just so few of them, and I'm not particularly in love with any of the narrators who read them right now. All my favorites happen to be in other categories, which should have tipped me off, but I didn't know.
All right. Well, that'd be interesting if it's like an untapped niche too on Audible. And who knows, you could like really kill it with your audiobooks whenever you're able to get them out there.
Oh, totally. And I know as a reader, it certainly is a category I wanted more in, and I've had readers ask me about the audio, and so I'd like to make that jump as soon as I can get someone I really like.
All right, cool. Well, just a couple questions close things off that I had from Twitter. If you're game to stay for a couple more minutes with us. Benjamin was asking for a friend. Two questions, and then the first, I don't think you've done novellas, so maybe you don't have a thought on this or not, but how do novellas or novelettes do in the sci-fi romances and maybe the fantasy romances too, or paranormal, if you've looked at that? That's his first question.
Yeah, totally. Novellas, yeah, I haven't done them myself, but I can go as a reader here. I do see them done. I'm trying to think who's a good example. I got nothing. But they can, as long as the reader knows to expect that it's novella length, you're fine. They do like that. Paranormal, don't read novellas paranormal. I want the whole story. I don't. There is one, Addison Kane, because I already liked her work. Then I jumped onto her novella, consumed, awesome, loved it. But otherwise, I guess I can't say on that one because I don't read the novella length in paranormal. But as long as you tell me that it's going to be that length, I would try it. So I would think you should give it a shot if that's what you want to write.
Yeah, I do see, I would say longer novellas, in the top 100 pretty often, like 100, 120 pages. It's kind of tough to have, you need enough time, especially in sci-fi, to like create this world and then too, to have the characters get to know each other before they jump into bed.
Yeah. I think the only way that Ruby Dixon is a great example again, she can pull off the novella because she's already had the main series. So like you said, the world is already created. You're probably never going to jump into the novella. And if you do, you'll be a little lost, but you've already kind of know the characters. Now you're just getting the two together or she already has the couple and you already know the couple and you're seeing their baby or whatever. So I think you have to have it established. Like you said, you've got a challenge ahead of you if you didn't do that.
Right. And the other half of his question is just, can you talk about what the expected steam level is? And we talked a little bit about that, but are there just reader expectations? Do you have to have graphic stuff, or can you write sweet romances in sci-fi romance?
You sure could. And then I'm not sure how you would warn readers that yours is not quite, because most of them, I should say most of the readers that I have, they enjoy the extra steamy, and they've asked for more graphic. They've literally come out and asked that. So that is what I know, and that's what I read. If you didn't want to go there, that's fine. I think you just have to find a way to warn people that it's going to be a sweet, not steamy, something like that. And once they know, once they know if they read your book and they really like it, they're going to keep on it. It won't be a problem. So, how you'd get them to be okay with it, I'm not sure, but I'm trying to think of people out there who have gone gently. And again, I'm not familiar enough with that market to say, but I have heard authors say that they don't have the steam level in theirs. So I think you could give it a shot.
Yeah, I think there's where the covers too can help you again. I've seen a couple that do well, that have like a couple silhouetted looking at the stars rather than the man chest.
Little sweets, yeah.
Yeah, so and it can do well. I've certainly seen some that like you don't have to. If that you can write romances without the steamy stuff if
Absolutely.
that's what you want.
And I'm thinking, I know this isn't sci-fi, paranormal. Well, it is paranormal. Patricia Briggs, hers are awesome stories, and it's not quite fade to black, but it's that if you blink, you'll miss it. I love her books anyway, so I think there's a lot to be said for if you work on the story, if that's what you want to work on, you can make that work. So if the story's there, the reader will read it.
All right, cool. A question from Edward. Selfish question, but let's say you're releasing your first book and currently a standalone with no series in the immediate future. What price should you launch at? And is KU necessary for visibility?
Let me think. I know a couple of authors that did not do KU until recently when we got together and we started talking. I'm not sure if I should name her name, but I'm going to not because I'm not sure. It can be done though. And I will say that when they switched to KU, they did see a jump. So if you don't want to do, if you, and again, there's no harm in putting it out there. If you want to put it out there at 99 cents and not do KU, put it wide. That'll leave your options open. You can always switch it later. What you can't do is once you get it on there, you're stuck for 3 months. So Dyson and put it out there. If you do put it out in Kindle Unlimited, then they say it's that new book Kindle Unlimited. They do that extra advertising for you. So that could be the other thing is you let them do the work for you.
Yeah, I tried with my pen name early on to have a couple wide, and I found it hard to gain traction, even with the first one being free. It may be different or 3 years later. So I know Kobo like has a category that's like romance and then science fiction and fantasy, but a lot of the stores still don't. Amazon only added it a few years ago, a very specific romance, science fiction, and before that, you really had to go on a hunt to find these books. So if there's not a category, it's tough to be visible in the stores.
Yeah, totally.
All right, one last question. Sarah asked, to pre-order or not to pre-order? Does it make a difference? And she was asking about going wide too, but since you have not done wide yet, just ask, do you do pre-orders and what are your thoughts on them?
Yeah, I don't do pre-orders just because I'm doing this way too fast to do it. But I thought about going that route just because there are some benefits. But unfortunately, I've heard so many horror stories of files being. I'm trying to think. Whitney G. She's the one of them that I saw. There was a big snafu with it, and there was refunds that had to be done. I mean, it was just she was really great about it. The readers were really understanding, but I don't want that kind of headache. And I've seen other ones where it's not so good, where it doesn't end well, and I just didn't want to take that risk. So I've seen authors that pull it off. They're not afraid to do it, but for me, no, I'm not gonna do pre-orders. So I can just see that going too ugly.
Yeah, I like to wait until I have the book pretty much done anyway, even if I'm going to do a pre-order. And on Amazon, it's probably better just not to do one unless it's only for a few days, just because you want the ranking boost and everything, all those sales to come in the first couple weeks.
That too, yeah, I hadn't even thought about that part of it, but definitely, yes, that's nice.
All right, well, that wraps it up for questions. Do you have any, would you like to tell us where people can find you online and maybe what you're working on now, or remind us the name of your first book too?
All right, Stolen by an Alien is the first one, and find me on Amazon because my website's sad. And if you want to find me on Facebook, I'm there. I do answer emails. I try. I'm behind. I used to be right up on them, but not anymore. But yeah, Amazon's the best place to find me, and Facebook if you want to stalk me. I'd love to talk to readers and talk books. So you can find me on there. The author page, but the Minion group is the best place to go.
Are you open to taking on new minions?
Yes, anytime. So we love them. And if male readers or male authors, if you are curious, the group loves to chat books. And so if you do have questions, they're great to ask. So I do encourage authors to come in and not pitch things, that's the wrong word, but to come in and talk about, would you be interested in this? Would you, it's so I love that. So if you did have questions, they're a really open group and they really know the market, the readers. So.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us this evening, and thank you everyone for listening. This will be episode 162 at marketingsff.com. If you need the link to the Minions, I'll have that on there, and also to Amanda's books on Amazon. Thanks for listening, everyone. Thanks for coming on, Amanda.
Thanks.
Thank you. This is
Thanks
awesome.
for hanging out with us, Amanda. And by the way, I love the name Minions. That's perfect.
So long, everybody.
Yeah, like the king, but that's awesome.